Let's give one more round of applause for the guys from Vinomofo. Let's do it for real. Come on. All right, guys, welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you. Can I go back? Tell me a little bit about your background, where you got the entrepreneurial bug from, if I could ask. And, you know, sometimes, you know, was there a mother or father that was an entrepreneur? Or,
yeah, my dad was an entrepreneur, doomed and tragically. Just remembering today, actually, when I was 19, I was doing economics account at uni, and I gave my dad a pen because we were going to start a business together. I bought him a Parker pen, and it was engraved with this, "We'll forge an empire." And took me about 25 years to actually even make the first step towards that. I mean, no, not the first step, but to make something on the way. But so that was right in the beginning. I guess I was from school. I wanted to be in business. That's as much as I knew, and there wasn't like a business degree. There was no. There are degrees apparently now for entrepreneurialism, which is cool, but there wasn't then. So it was accounting, which is pretty dull and pretty uninspiring for founders. But that was it. And my life and my background was really diverse and did all sorts of stuff. The first thing failed with my dad, and emotionally and financially, and was really bad and traumatic. So I ran away and became an actor and a singer, and then started a theatre company that also failed, and that turned into an events company to pay back $100,000 we lost as a theatre company, and just there was a series of those things, which is quite depressing to retell, but it was the truth. And I eventually got a job for Cellarmasters, one of our competitors. They hire out-of-work actors on their phone team. So that was my first wine job, and loved wine and that and the industry. And then wanted to start a video production company, and that led to then wanting to start to do something in wine, and that's where we had a convergence.
So, is it on? Can you hear? So my
it's subtle.
It's real
subtle.
Nice.
It's nice. Yeah, it's cool.
I always wanted to be an entrepreneur. I was the kid that was knocking on the neighbour's door to wash their car, mow the lawn. So it started from a very early age for me. I remember when I was like 14, and I created a Christmas tree pop-up sale 4 weeks before Christmas. I spent 3 or 4 days selling Christmas trees to passing cars before that was normal. And I made my first profit. It was 12 Christmas trees. I spent the whole weekend, I got 12 Christmas trees, and every day I left my house, I could see the 12 dying Christmas trees to remind me, better stock management.
Yeah.
From there, I got back into wine. I studied wine at uni. It was part of the family, like not close family, but ancestors kind of planted the first Shiraz vines in Barossa, or some of the first Shiraz vines in Barossa. That kind of so there's a really close connection to wine, which is hence Veno.
So what's studying wine at school?
Yeah,
a lot of
I know.
Drunken classes?
I get asked that a lot, and there was a lot of drunken classes, to tell you the truth. I studied. There used to be a course called wine marketing, because back in, like, I don't know, I'll show my age now, like mid-late 90s, wine was just booming. Like internationally for Australia, it was just booming. So anyone could get a job in wine industry back then. And so they created all these courses based around it, thinking it's going to run forever, this run. And so I studied wine marketing, and then I was like, I got more and more into wine, and then I switched over to wine making, and then I realised that there's not a lot of money in wine. And it's more of a passion.
And this was Adelaide at this stage for you guys, yeah?
Yes, yeah, both born. Actually, and then from there, I worked in the wine industry for a while, holding tastings for people. Really loved it, but then decided that, like I said, it was more of a passion than a profession. Not seeing into the future, obviously, but I was really interested in business and finance and stocks and whatever. So I studied financial markets and became a stockbroker for a couple of years, and just right with the tech boom, so late 90s, and everything was winning. So all my friends loved me. I was like, yeah, buy that stock, and it's like 10 times, no worries. And I made a lot of money in that journey, and then I lost a lot of money in 2000 when it all came down. from there, I invested in some property or whatever. Then I travelled overseas looking for my inspiration for my next business. Backpacked around South America. Everyone was, the Americans and the English were on this thing called Facebook, which, it sounds ridiculous now, but no one had heard of in Australia. It was like 2006 or something like that. And I was like, fuck, there's something to this. And I started coming up with the idea of like Facebook for wine. I'll bring it back, and that's what I did. That's what I tried to do with Qwoff. And Andre at the same time was getting right into like the customer review side of it. He was actually building a site at the same time, also in his passion for wine. So we kind of came together, and he was looking at customer review side, and I was looking at like the Facebook side.
How did you guys meet?
He married my sister.
Oh, all right.
No, it would have been really horrible the other way around, but yeah. So that's fuck. All right. No. And yeah. From there, and so then that Qwoff was born. So Qwoff was our first business together. It was the one that made no money for 4 or 5 years. And we learned a lot of things, bad business models and all the stuff. And we pivoted about, to use a cliche term, pivoted about 4 times that business. Everyone was slightly better than the last.
Give me a couple examples.
All right, so Qwoff was making no money. The business model sucked. We pitched to investors, and everyone said no. Everyone said no, but it was a good experience to go through the whole investment thing and pitching and realising your idea wasn't very good. Then we decided to, I think we came back from Christmas holidays, and I was like, Andre, I really want to just, this Qwoff thing's pretty tough. I really want to buy a combi and travel around the country tasting wine and surfing. And he was like, that is not a good business model, Justin. And then I think from there he's like, but you know what we could do? We could film it and turn it into a show. Yeah. And so Road to Veno was born. And that was a show that we did exactly what I just said. And from the first episode we launched, put on the internet just, Wine Australia called us up and wanted to sponsor us. So that was the next business, which was based on sponsorships from regions and the industry bodies. And
was it the same kind of style as the videos you do now? Or
yeah. Very similar, but like better production value.
All right.
Like, much better production value. But I keep talking, so do you want to finish off?
Well, so and was there any inspiration with Gary Vaynerchuk? Was there no?
Yeah, there was. Well, basically, when we started Qwoff, it was part of this thing when we started talking about what was important and what you want to stand for. We sort of looked at it and we went, the wine industry it's bow ties and bullshit is what we coined the phrase. It was there was a lot of conservative barriers. People found wine. We just found a lot of people would be like, yeah, I buy wine, but I play it safe because you walk in a wine store and there's so many wines, and walk in a restaurant and you're made to feel a bit intimidated. And so there was sort of fear and confusion and stuff. And so we really thought, that's bullshit. We're just normal people and we love wine. Why does it have to be caught up in this wine is just for a certain type of person, or wine is, it's just a drink and it's like food. And so there was this sort of movement globally, and Gary Vaynerchuk was part of that. I don't know if you know him, but he's great. He's become a startup guy, and he's become a social media guy. He's a real thought leader, and he was in wine, and it was just a sort of a movement going, wine doesn't belong to the grumpy old men. You know what I mean? I'm not as young, but we're young and we're just normal people, and we love wine, and that's all right. And it became a movement. So that underpinned everything we did. And I guess Justin was more interested in technology, but not for technology's sake, but for the consumerism changes that were around technology. So, it was Facebook and it was customer reviews in 2006 that formed our first business. Then it was YouTube that formed our second, made us buy a combi and travel around the country. And then it was like location-based and mobile that we launched the Great Wine Adventure, which was this campaign app. It was sort of riding the bleeding edge and chasing what do people want? What do they want to use? What would they fucking pay for? Which we never quite conquered until Vinomofo. But that was what we were in touch with, and that's what caused the pivots. Well, this seems to be a new and exciting thing, and we believe in this. So how can we be involved in this? What can how can this apply to the wine industry? So we sort of did that for a while, and that was what led us to Vinomofo, which was, we had, sort of was tough because we threw everything into this business together, and brothers-in-laws, and we sold all our assets and we funded the business that wasn't making money for years, and we hit a few points where it was make some money or give up, and we got a little angel investor 3 years into it, which helped us then, survive for a while and make some, hire a person and make some other decisions that weren't based on just trying to make the rent or the bills for next week. But that then also ran out, and we'd try other things, and it was that sort of journey for quite a while. And backs to the wall in 2011, Justin sort of came back from Christmas. Is always one of those times where we'd go away, you'd take like a week, and you come back a bit refreshed or with some new thoughts because you've escaped this, this train you're on. So Justin came back going, we've been talking about deal sites and Groupon and group buying and those sorts of things. We should do it for wine. And that's what led to Vinomofo, not without a sense of, are you fucking kidding? We've already got 4 things we're doing. And it's a stupid idea, which was my contribution to our business founding. Thankfully, Justin doesn't listen to me very often. So we did that. But it was always that, looking at the market, which thankfully Justin was always in, and looking at technology, looking where things were headed. And that's what ultimately led to many things that didn't work, but they worked in terms of people liked them, just didn't have a good business model, didn't have a good revenue model, and Vinomofo thankfully did.
And was Vinomofo built on using the database you had already established with the previous projects? How did you start getting Vinomofo established?
Yes. 4 years of failed pivots. What we did have is...
It's all good.
That's awkward. Yeah. Just put your hand up. That's cool. We had good relationships with producers. We'd spent a year and a half travelling the country, meeting them and having cool adventures with them in a combi, and then a base of customers that trusted us and we had a real relationship with as well. So that formed the foundation of suppliers and customers for a new business.
So you weren't starting out from 0 customers. You had a little bit of a database. When did you know you were onto something big with Vinomofo?
So the day we launched, so we built up. We'd had about 1,000 or 2,000 sign-ups pre-launch, and then the day we launched, we sold more wine in one day than we'd sold in the previous 3 months. So we were like, "Fuck, this is going to work." I think we've got to divert our attention over this direction. So it just happened really quick. It was like the first we were going. All right, we started to get a lot of press because we were first mover in that kind of space. And I think it worked so well. And then with all the press, it kind of built on top of that. And all of a sudden we knew that there was going to be lots of people chasing us. So we needed to get big quickly, so we started looking around for more money, and then every person we saw put their hand up, which is so nice. To after the first couple of times trying to find money, and you kind of go into the angel network, whatever it is, and you pitch your idea, and you go, "All right, guys, can you leave now?" So you leave, and apparently they all put their hand up if they're interested, and no one put their hand up the first couple of times, and then this time apparently everyone put their hands up. They caught us in 35 seconds and said, "We're in." And but by the time that we negotiated through this process, and they started putting restrictions on us and all sorts of crazy shit.
Can I sidetrack you there for a minute? Can I ask you, because a lot of startups in this room right now, just a couple of tips on pitching or raising money or getting the right investors?
I'll give you one.
Yep.
I mentioned this to. Where are you? I had this exact conversation just a second ago. There it is. No, I'd say you go. Probably something I learned, and Andre's great at negotiation because he used to be an actor, so so you can basically go. We read these couple of great books like Pitch Anything, and what was the other one?
It was Power Negotiation.
Power Negotiation. So we're reading these books about. So before we meet these guys, we're like madly reading these things to learn how we could pitch, and most of them were saying, pick a figure that's kind of uncomfortable to say. Like we thought we were worth here. And it's like, but you got to pick a figure that's kind of uncomfortable that you kind of that. And so I would say, because it's all about bracketing as far as what you think you're worth. You know what I mean? Like if you think, let's say, example, $1 million, you kind of go, oh yeah, so what are you worth? And you go, like 3. And they're like, are you serious? And you're like, yeah, that's what I think you're worth. And they go like, and if they'd had like 500 in their head or $1 million, they'll go, well, how about $1 million? You're like, maybe we meet at 2. You know what I mean? And you kind of meet in the middle because you've set those parameters. It fucking works. Yeah. It seriously does.
It sounds like a silly game, but this is I think what Justin was saying before as well is we pitched for investment a couple of times prior to launching Vinomofo, and spent a lot of time creating an elaborate pitch. And when you're sitting there and you're creating a pitch and you realise that's the time you're trying to construct this business model, you're probably full of shit and you probably haven't got the right business. And that's what we found. People go, wow, I love your enthusiasm, love your passion, and I really like what your ideas, but not for us right now. And they're just going, you're not going to make fucking money. You've just invented this business model during this pitch or to create this pitch, which is exactly what had happened. And that's, you know, whereas with Vinomofo, it was like, all right, so we've been operating for 3 months and it looks like this. Suddenly everyone's going, okay. And there was substance in it. So to get people's attention was easy, and to get people going, okay, this is a real business and I understand it, and you've got some track record. So our advice straight away would be, and we talk about this, and we do a lot of, I guess, talking with startups about, and everyone's like, oh, what's it? And we sort of, I guess, have some ideas of this guide, and 3 sort of things being product, market, and money, profitability. We sort of, everything's, you know, everyone's aware of the concept of MVP and, you know, minimum viable product to get your product launched as quickly as possible, and that's really out there. But the same principle should and can be applied to market, most niche market, because they will adopt if you've got a good product. It fits with minimum viable product. It's probably going to be more focused and better for a smaller audience. Therefore, go for the smaller audience, easier to reach, and start with that. And then fast path to profitability, which is what we sort of achieve. If people can see a track record and, you know, wow, okay, so for the 2 of you and your minimum viable product with your 500 customers, this model works. It's very easy then for an investor to go, okay, that's a fair bit of risk mitigation. I'll now listen to you. And then what Justin was saying, the story is true. Our learning curve was, you know, Justin going, Andre, read this book. It's really cool. Me going, okay. And then going, fuck, this power negotiating. Sounds naff. It's really cool. We'd go into a board meeting. When we sold a majority of our company as part of our growth strategy to a company called Catch of the Day. Big group, aggressive group, really cool, had achieved a lot. And yeah, no, they were our choice of, they were our scaling strategy when we realised we needed to do that fast. But it did end up as one of those sort of scenarios where you're flying over to a board meeting to pitch to the board, and some good people on the board, and you're thrown in a hostile environment, and what you thought was not going to be hostile, and they do that stuff, and we'd had the conversations, which sounds really naive, but, you know, based on the book, just going, okay, so we now understand bracketing, and we now understand you're in the cab on the way, and we go, all right, so here's the things we're going to ask, so what do we say we're worth? And we're like, well, this is what we think we're worth, but we've got to say, because, you know, bracketing, we're going to get dragged there, and we're like, should we say like 12? You'd be like, I can't say 12 and keep a straight face. And you'd be like, but if we don't say 12, we'll get dragged down to 1. So we've got to say 12 so we land on 3 or whatever. You know, and that's sort of the principle of it. And we're like, fuck, okay. So sure enough, you put that aside and you put it in your book, and then it comes up 45 minutes into the meeting. So what are you worth? 12. As Justin said, you're like, I know, it sounds crazy. I feel it too, but I'm just going to shut up after that number. And you see it, and the funny thing was, after reading that book, it was like a translation book. You saw the game play out. And this book was cool, I got to say, because the writer was a pitch guy, and he was a front man for pitching. And that was what he got off on, and he understood the game. And people talk about this often. The game, everybody enjoys the game, and everybody acknowledges that they're part of the game. And if you know the rules, you can play the game. If you don't know the rules, you probably have fear and be uncomfortable with certain things. Nobody's offended by everybody who's playing the game. And this was a weird thing for us, because we were like, that's bullshit. We care about this business, and we don't want to play a game. We want to, but when we sort of did, and we saw everybody in the room suddenly was going, you know the rules too. Okay. It was kind of like, so we're all on chapter 4, are we? Seriously. It was odd, but that's how it was. And so you're sort of like, okay, and you all know where you're headed. And, you know, they did the same. They came out, they were like, can you leave the room? And one of them's like, well, I'll tell you, you don't even need the room. I'll tell you, we're not going to fucking invest in you. Why don't we, you know, they're playing the same game. Then you're outside and you're made to wait for half an hour, and the CEO comes out and shakes his head and goes, oh, look, we really want to be a part of this, but here's what we can do. And you're like, oh, that's bullshit. You've already convinced yourself that you're worth 12. You're like, in like 45 minutes.
Seriously, we would have phone calls. So we were sitting and like he was pacing or I was pacing. We were chatting on the phone, and there would be an offer. And we've had like many offers over the time, and it'd be an offer. And because you got this figure in your head that you've made up completely because it's slightly uncomfortable, and then they say anything halfway there, you're like, fuck that. Like, yeah. Had you never thought about this and you heard that number, you would have gone, holy shit, I'm set. It's so funny.
You're establishing to these people that you think you're worth something. So it all comes, it's not, the game is only effective as a game if it's on the foundations of something real. And I guess that's what it all is in aid of. And for us, that was, and if it came back to it, I guess we really did believe that we would one day be worth that, whether it's a year or 2 years. So for us, it was negotiations around a future value.
Can I ask, because, a lot of VCs go, where's the technical co-founder? What were, some of your learnings around that, and was that a setback? Do you see that as a setback or an advantage, I guess? And how did that play in these negotiations?
People ask, do you have any regrets or what we've done differently? For Justin and I both, it would have been back in our garage, pissed in 2007 after Christmas when we thought, hey, brothers-in-law, let's go into business together. We would have also gone, and let's find a hacker as a co-founder straight away, because that was a nightmare for 5 years until we got lucky enough to find a great guy, But I mean, a developer was our first hire, but we would have straight away got a developer as a partner.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's my background's multimedia business marketing, and I know that we're like two guys that don't know the other side. We're almost like digital mechanics. Yeah. Can I say that? Like, so you don't know how much it's worth or how much time we're spending on it? No. So did you find, that you were paying a crazy amount of money to get these changes done or to get the site the way you wanted perfect?
No, we did the perfect thing. We hired family and people working after hours, so we got no time. But we got it cheap, so it was amazing. I think the biggest mistake we made in the early days, because we probably made everything go about 2 or 3 years longer than we needed to, because we were outsourcing. So we basically outsourced to my cousin. It was like my cousin worked at a web dev company, and he was good, but we got him from like 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. when he didn't need to spend time with his family or he had other stuff on. You know what I mean? So we had the slowest response time. Our site would go down, and we'd be like, "What the fuck do we do?" And we got no idea how to turn it back on.
Got to wait till 6 p.m.
Yeah. It was like, mad calls, 22 calls, Ben, where the fuck are you? Our site's down, there's 3 people on it.
All right, so moving back to the negotiation stuff, you talk about Catch of the Day and their impact on your business, and then I guess the subsequent buying it back. Yeah, well, look, there's smiles. I don't know what this story's going to be like.
I'm just very aware there's a camera there.
All right. Yeah, we don't edit it.
I'd just like to say that Catch of the Day and Vinomofo share the same PR agency, and they're here in the room today. No, our experience, Catch of the Day was cool, right? So I don't know if I can disclose this, but fuck it, I will. We were deep in a negotiation with Fairfax. In a partnership, and that was to get people in the audience and good wine audience, really deep in it. And we would have gone with them had they not dawdled through the diligence process, but it was still all on track and fell out of exclusivity just by happenstance and by the fact that Christmas sort of came up. And then first week back in January of that new year, got an email, a random email, unsolicited from the guys, the founders and CEO of Catch of the Day. Saying,
so can I stop you there before you tell the story? So the Catch of the Day, for anyone that doesn't know, turns over what? Like 200 million, something like that?
More than that. I think they're probably up to 400. The PR girls might know. But they're great company. They were real leaders in the deals space, and then they had category leader in the group buying space, and they created a online grocery site. A couple of Jewish brothers, so there was sort of synergies there, who just, online retail, got it early, went hard, believed in products, some good stuff, profitable, smashed it out of the park. Great company. And so we're sitting there going, we need to get from... The reason we needed to scale fast was because when we launched, we were sort of kind of exciting and seeing growth path. There's a few articles about you come onto the radar, and the wine space is like the grocery space. You've got Woolworths and Coles, and they don't particularly at that time welcome new players or online players. So we were suddenly a victim to pretty aggressive competitive strategies on suppliers, pressuring suppliers not to deal with us. So we had to go, fuck, unless we have value as a buying entity, as a channel, that's what we can say to a winery, it's worth you upsetting Woolworths because we'll buy 1,000 cases from you, then we were quickly going to get crushed. So we needed to scale from here to here fast. So that's hence why we started looking for money and a partner. Catch of the Day had 3 category leaders, and we met them, and they were cool. They were young, and they were sort of, you know, they were to DJs and Harvey Norman what we were to Woolworths and stuff. So it was kind of cool. There were those synergies. So partnered with them, and learned a lot of stuff and hit the big leagues. So it opened some doors and unlimited capital and access to a lot of customers straight away. So it was.
Can I ask too? Because I've been to their office and I've seen the slide coming down from the 2nd floor, and they got that whole, the basketball court over here and the whole Silicon Valley vibe. What was it like walking in as you were still relatively small at this point, right?
Yeah, well, that side. Look, that was it wasn't that side of it wasn't anything particularly. It was walking into a group that had an IT team of 35 and a customer service team of 40, and it was a lot of that sort of governance and compliance that's necessary for a company with 350 or 400 employees turning over whatever, call it $500 million. So that was a learning curve for us. We had 10 people, and we had a really tight culture, and we wanted to embrace the group, and we wanted to be a part of that. But look, changes happened within the group, and there were some things that didn't work out as well, and other things from both sides, just in terms of weren't quite the customer synergies that we thought there might be from 1.5 million customers. Kind of stuff that you wouldn't have modelled and predicted, but it just turned out that way. And whatever we ended up hitting a point where we were like, be great to be on our own again. And so that started a path, and they were good with that path. They were like, they sort of understood us. They'd sort of done a semi-exit, not an exit, but they'd brought in a big VC partner as well, and experienced some of that, not loss of control, but just sharing of control as 2 brothers that built it from nothing. That sort of, well, so I think they understood that, yeah. And they were like, through all of whatever happened in the negotiations, I think ultimately they were like, do you know what? It's pretty cool that you want to do it on your own, and you're probably right. You probably run this.
Well, you're lucky they weren't pricks about it, right? They could have been.
That's exactly right. They could have done whatever. Yeah. They're good people. You know what I mean? They're good people, and they're, like I said, they're the underdogs too. So even though for us they were a big company, and ostensibly you could look at it and go, because everybody, we talk about this, everyone goes, oh yeah, must have been the big group, and they must have tried to take control, must have been all this shit. Wasn't at all. You do a deal like this with a company like that, they're like, welcome on board, what are you going to do? They're investing in you because you've got the answers. They're not investing in a couple of people that are just going to be, worker bees and fulfill what they think is the ingredient. That's not how business works, and that's not how VCs will work. And a VC that tries to assert control is probably not a great VC and probably doesn't have many successful companies.
So at this point you buy your stock back, is that right?
Yes, ultimately.
Ultimately,
buy your shares back.
Your shares back, and then did you see that like a big growth spurt after that? Did you kind of like prove everyone,
Yes. Yes. All right. We actually, it happened June 30th, 2013, and July was our biggest month, probably by double, and it was huge, and we kept growing at 20-30% every month from there. I think because we had a lot of really loyal kind of wine nerdy customers who just enjoyed the whole ride. They'd been with us from Qwoff days, and they'd gone through the road to Veno and the check-in app and all that kind of stuff. We had a lot of really passionate, a lot of people that felt really connected with us. And I think when we sold out to what we saw as an underdog and a big guy, a lot of our original guys were like, oh, but is that selling out? But we're like, no, it's not, because they're the underdog, which is brilliant. However, when we did buy it back, there was a lot of people going, oh, it's so good to have you boys back. You know what I mean? And I think that really had an effect. Instantly, our sales, and they haven't looked back.
Can we talk about mofos being edgy, as you said in the video? what impact has that had on your business? Just finding a group of customers that love you rather than just like you.
That's an interesting question. No, it is. Well, look, the name Vinomofo, it wasn't really by choice. It was a reaction. We were going to be Veno Mojo, which is a really cool name. And we just called it, we ended up having to change our name because we got a cease and desist order. It's a long story. It's on the website. But, you know, so it came from us sitting around going, fuck, we've got to change our name 3 days before launch. What's it going to be? And Justice said, well, as a joke, let's call it Vinomofo for the motherfuckers who are trying to stop us from launching. Yeah. And then we're like, maybe we could just do it for like a month, just as a PR story and be really cool. And then we'll switch it back when we win the trademark. Anyway, so that was the reason behind it. So we didn't go, let's create this really, let's be the wine motherfuckers, you know? Let's create this site for 20-year-olds and I think we're really cool and we'll just all skate and, you know. Like I'm 42 and I got 2 kids and pretty dull. Justin's younger and slightly cooler. But really, we're not mofo, yeah, what up? So it was that sort of thing. But it was, so we would like to say it was a strategic decision, but we did pay attention to the results. And it was that sort of, okay, you're not going to be bland and you're not going to be nothing. But as it turns out, we don't have 260,000 Gen Y customers. Most of our customers are our age. Then we got plenty of baby boomers. Then we got some Gen Yers. So it wasn't so, it didn't niche us into just youth, but it did say, okay, you know, this is what you're going to be. But a name very quickly loses its impact. It's about what you stand for. And that shines through in everything, if you let it, if you choose to. And so it became quickly about something beyond the people that understood that Vinomofo meant wine motherfucker. So quickly became that. But it was a decision, and this was more than the name. It was on the back of, you know, when I said we were part of this movement that was wanting to change the way people talked and thought about wine. So that was the movement, and that was what you stand for. And I think that was more important to the tribe that gathered with us and other businesses that stood for the same thing around the world than the name was.
Talk about your growth. Talk about some of the pains you've had that some of these guys can avoid, and what's next for Vinomofo.
Yeah, so there's a couple of pain points that stick out. I mean, one is, obviously, Andre said, supply issues. We had a lot of pressure. As soon as we were in the media and as soon as our numbers started growing, you've got a lot of mean, big duopoly people, you know, Woolworths and Coles that go, oh, these guys are starting to hurt our supply. You know, it's tiny compared to what they are, but they're not that friendly in business, and they'll do lots of really awful things to a small guy. So don't ever buy from Dan's. Soulless. Anyway. So look, we had to scale really quickly, which we went through. That's why we're looking for investment partners, just so we could say to a winery, I know you're going to cop a lot of shit for doing this because we're buying it better than they are, but we're going to buy 1/3 of your total production and we're going to pay you in 30 days, you know. Most of the people in the industry would be like, you know, 90 days, 6 months, you know, whatever, like really long terms. We're like, we're coming in, we're going to pay you in a week, we're going to pay you in 30 days, and we're going to take more than they're going to take the entire year. So we had to get to that size and that kind of money to be able to do those things. So yeah, that was a painful kind of journey, and lots of kind of, you know, unfortunate circumstances where we'd put up a deal and then the supplier would get all sorts of awful pressure. And I won't say it because it's being filmed, but like awful stuff.
ACCC stuff. Just saying.
Yeah. And then, but because we cared so much about it, we knew all these people. The way we got these deals was because we had relationships with these people that own wineries, because we travel around the country, we were at all the wine events, we knew them really well. So, you know, your heart's breaking when you're hearing them being threatened with their business and all sorts of shit. So we would pull deals down. You know, we would, like, deals that were selling well, we'd go, shit, that's out, we're done, because we don't want you to do damage to your long-term. Like, it was awful. So we had to get to a point where we needed to buy enough that they would go, fuck you. And so that's what we got to. That was one of the painful things. The other thing is, I think as a company that's growing really quickly, it's really hard to maintain great culture. Like, you know, when you're when you go from 2 guys to 18 in a period of, you know, very short period, and then we're now at 37, I think. You know, there's a lot of growing pains in culture because you bring on so many people. You know, you had great culture, 2 people, then there's like 10 times as many people as you. You don't control the culture as much anymore.
And the vision, can you talk about it a little bit at all, or no?
Yeah, look,
yeah.
You know, it's cool. You know, we spent a year. You know, like Justin said, so 30th of June, we bought this company back with a 0 balance sheet. So there was no money in the bank account. There was 11 staff. Well, yes, we had a functioning website, and yes, we had stock to sell, but we didn't own, but it was, you know. So it was like, wow. So we started with 0, and in 8 days, we had 11 people to pay, and 3 past midnight, first sale came through into our bank account, not the Catch bank account. It's like 3 cases, it was $587 something, and we're like, fuck, okay, just another 12 grand to go, and we'll be able to pay everyone. And then we got rent, and it was a weird reset. And so the focus for this year, for at least half of it, was just get profitable and get secure, and, you know, and grow, but just be sure that we can run this without help. And then it became, you know, product improvements, and now we're like, okay, so this year it's about going from where we're at to being a household name, which is big investment into marketing and a real focus on that. It's about finishing off the product improvements. But our vision is a 5-year goal, and that's about where can we get domestically, and that's a certain amount of growth, and it's cool and what's needed to get there. And then it's about expansion into new markets that are big wine markets, and taking the Vinomofo brand and product and site to markets around the world.
Brilliant. I'm going to end it there. I want everyone back on their feet to say thank you once again to the guys from Vinomofo.